Today, I want to answer a really important question from my Russian viewer who's studying Chinese. He asked me something like this: I really want to write Chinese very fluently, but it's so hard to get used to Chinese characters. The Latin alphabet is so different, and if I can't write in the language I learned, does it even make sense to keep learning it? I want to write Chinese, but I also want to listen and speak well. How can I combine all these things? Today I'm speaking from you from Singapore, not Brisbane, Australia. We're flying home to Brisbane tonight. So, if you're learning Chinese that crosses culture, continents, you might feel exactly the same. Chinese script, Latin alphabet, completely different. They have different roots. So in this video, I want to talk about three things. First, the natural order of language learning in human history. Second, how school and exams have turned that order upside down. And third, a very practical way to combine listening, speaking, reading, and writing without burning out. Let's start at the beginning. Long before textbooks, the internet, and apps. Let's ask the most basic question. What is language actually for? Language is older, far older than writing. For most of human history, there was no writing at all. People spoke, people listened, and they told stories. Custom and history handed down from generation to generation rely totally on oral tradition. Instructions, knowledge, and wisdom were all communicated by spoken language only. In the latter part of human history, farmers, shepherds, soldiers, mothers, and laborers didn't, did not need to read or write to live their lives. You just needed to understand what people said, and you needed to make yourself understood. Even in China, for many centuries, peasants like my grandparents did not read or write. They never learned to write. They never went to school to learn to read and write. But they still spoke rich, beautiful Hakka Chinese. They argued in Chinese, they joked in Chinese, they fell in love in Chinese. Their spoken language was real, alive, and complete, even without characters. So, the original purpose of language from antiquity is plain and simple communication between people. I speak, you listen, you respond, and understand flows between us. Writing came later as a powerful extra tool. At some point, humans needed to record things. How much harvest did we collect this year? How much tax was paid and collected? What laws did kings make? What stories and poems do we want our grandchildren to know? So people started etching symbols and signs on stones and cave walls. In China, this became characters on oracle bones, bamboo, silk, and later paper. The West took a slightly different path, which gave rise to the Latin alphabet, a phonetic form of language. Writing records and lets us speak across distance and time. Spoken words can be relayed but may change and passed on by ear. So, writing is a wonderful extension of language, but the natural order is listening, then speaking, then reading, then writing. That is how all of us learn our native languages. That is how our ancestors learned. And that is still the best way for our brains to learn. Now, let us fast forward to modern education. Modern education focuses on reading and writing which makes sense to our native language that we first learned at home. But for learning a new language, this is not appropriate. You read the text with your eyes, you write the characters, you may listen, but mostly with your eyes on the text. You speak, maybe but for 2 minutes at the end of the class. So your eyes and hands are working very hard, but your ears and mouth are not getting enough practice. You don't hear it or speak it at home. This is exactly what my viewer from Russia and many of you are experiencing. Lots of reading and writing with your eyes and hands, and very little listening without looking at the text, and very little speaking without text. You need to listen for the sounds of the language. You need to speak from the sounds you hear with your ears, not from the symbols you read. Of course, for university and exams, reading and writing are extremely important. Do you need them? Yes, you do need them. HSK, for example, mostly tests reading and writing. But for living in Chinese, for working, traveling, and building relationships, listening and speaking are more important. Schools have their own logic. Life has another. We have to respect both. Today's language teaching and education recognizes this and includes more listening focused courses, more speaking practice in classes as well. Four skills: listening, speaking, reading, writing are four different muscles. Each muscle needs its own training time. For many language students, the routine looks like this: lots of reading, lots of writing, writing Chinese characters, but very little pure listening, and very little speaking, speaking without reading. So they are strong in reading the text, writing the text perhaps, but the goal is not to stop at reading and writing. The goal is to bring the other two muscles, listening and speaking, back into action to get up to speed with your other skills and to achieve a balanced proficiency. Here is one simple plan you can start this week. First, keep your reading and writing, but protect protect some time for your weak side. Spend 15 to 20 minutes, only 15 to 20 minutes a day on listening only. No text, no pinyin, just your ears. You can use my Chinese from Zero lessons or any slow beginner audio. Use the pronunciation and tone videos to sharpen your articulation. Then spend 10 to 15 minutes a day on speaking only. Read aloud something you already know. Shadow after the audio. Answer easy questions out loud. 今天我很忙，明天我有空。During this time, there is no writing, no looking at characters, no pausing to translate. You are training your ear mouth connections directly. Then, in a separate block of time, do your normal reading and writing practice. Copy characters, read your textbooks, do your school assignments. This way, each skill gets its own moment in the light. If you keep doing this for a few months, you'll be pleasantly surprised. You are no longer trying to build everything with your eyes alone. Writing Chinese is an art. In times past, Chinese imperial exams judged and marked students' writing prowess for its aesthetic and quality. In today's digital age, this skill is fast dying. We use the keyboard for writing. So, to my friend in Russia, and to you, if you feel the same, you are not failing because writing feels hard. You are not less serious if you spend time on listening and speaking first. You are simply returning to the natural path of language learning that humans have followed for thousands of years. Reading and writing are powerful tools, especially for university and exams, but do not let them push away the original purpose of language, which is people talking to people. And start small. A little listening without text, a little speaking without looking. Then your normal reading and writing. Do this consistently, step by step, and your Chinese will become more whole, more human, and much more enjoyable. You can begin with my Chinese from Zero series, where we build your Chinese through listening and speaking and the use of pinyin and characters as support. Thank you for learning with me. Keep going. Your spoken Chinese does not have to be perfect, but it needs to be real in your ears and mouth.